And welcome back to My Media Museum. We were looking at the disco case that we got in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And we're going to pick up where we left off with the 21st 45 on the spindle, being a Pink Floyd, Another Brick in the Wall, Part 2. And you'll see it's a Hall of Fame, so this is a reissue. But they did not change the B-side. It's the exact same B-side as on the original issue, and that being One of My Turns. So yeah, I've got this one and have covered this one previously, but with a completely different label. This is the first time I've seen this Pink Floyd on a Hall of Fame, and I found it rather interesting that they did not change the B-side. So, following up Pink Floyd with Three Dog Night, an appropriate titled song, The Show Must Go On, if you're familiar with The Wall. That kind of transitions right in there. And the B-side being On the Way Back Home. Next up, we've got another one that we have covered previously in the past. This is the B-side, Hey Hey What Can I Do? But just to cover the story one more time, for a long time, the only way you could get this song was on this 45. This was a non-album B-side exclusive. And if you remember, or if you saw the episode where I covered this one, I believe it was in box 1, it said that it was from Led Zeppelin 3, which it was not. Like I said, it was an exclusive B-side. Well, they took that off on this reprinting of it. So this isn't an original first printing, but it is from the period. A-side there being Immigrant Song. You'll notice it gives you From the Atlantic LP with a number, but it doesn't say Led Zeppelin 3. And the other copy I showed you did specifically say Led Zeppelin 3 for both songs. So that was kind of neat. It's always neat to have little mistakes or errors or 45s that aren't 100% correct in their information. It just shows that nobody's perfect. And it happens, you know. Perfection is a trap. If you allow yourself to get too wrapped up in being perfect, you'll never accomplish anything. And that's another reason why I like these one-shot videos that I'm doing. They're completely unscripted. It's just like we're sitting around the room talking. And I'm doing the best I can to get the words out and get everything accurate. But mistakes happen, and even the pros do it. So, Black Magic Woman by Santana off of Abraxas. That's a really well-known Santana song. And the B-side of that being Hope You're Feeling Better. Alright, so, like I said, this person had some really good taste in music. Me and whoever had this spindle originally could have been real good friends, because here we've got The Who doing Behind Blue Eyes. And there are some oddities at the end and a couple that I don't recognize, but you know, here we are a little over a third of the way into the spindle, and it's just hit after hit in my opinion. And the B-side being My Wife, which was a great John Entwistle song. I thought John was one of the best bassists ever. When you want to make a list of the top 5 bassists, he's going to be on there on my list. So next we've got Carly Simon and Haven't Got Time for the Pain. Yeah, she did some really good stuff. I really liked a lot of Carly Simon stuff. B-side being Man on My Mind, which I'm not nearly as familiar with, but definitely do know I Haven't Got Time for the Pain. And then here, in our last box 7, we had of me and Bobby McGee, the original song version. Here is Janis Joplin doing it. And actually, I take that back. I'm not entirely sure who did it first. But I don't think Janis did it first. I think Janis was doing a cover. It's written by Chris Christopherson, so it's not that old. It doesn't go back that far. But Janis definitely did it. Here's a copy of her version of it. And the B-side being Half Moon. And it is kind of interesting to me how somebody took like an eraser on a pencil and erased it off and then wrote their name on there. It wasn't enough for them just to write their name on there. They wanted to make sure it stood out. And here we've got another Badfinger, which we started this series of videos off with the Badfinger song, Come and Get It. This one's No Matter What. And the B-side, I think, because, you know, I believe all the cut apples were the B-sides and the full apples were the A's. We've got Carry On Till Tomorrow. Neither one of these songs stands out for me. I don't really remember them. But I know Badfinger, and I know the story behind Badfinger and Paul McCartney's association with the band. And he wrote a number of songs for him, including that Come and Get It. All right, Andy Kim, Rock Me Gently, Rock Me Slowly. B-side being Rock Me Gently, Part 2. So that's an interesting one where they've, you know, cut the song in half and or, you know, done an extended version for the B-side. Then Tommy James is up next with Dragging a Line. Dragging a Line. B-side of that one was Bits and Pieces, which ain't a song that I'm familiar with, but I think everybody knows Dragging a Line. And then we got some Neil Diamonds here, and I'm not familiar with either side of this 45. I believe this is the A-side, I Am, I Said. So that's not one that I know from him. And the B-side being Done Too Soon, which again isn't one that I'm familiar with from him. But this next one up's rather interesting because He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother, the old Hollies song. I know the Hollies version of it. I don't recall ever hearing Neil Diamond do it, but it is the same song, and I'm sure Neil did a just fine job of it. And then on the B side of that one is Free Life, which doesn't ring any bells for me at all. And then next up, we've got one, you know, we've discussed this a few times. He's not one of my favorite artists, but he's had some really great songs, and in my opinion, this wasn't one of them. But this was the B-side originally, and it got so much more airplay that it ended up becoming the A-side. I'm not really sure from looking at this 45 which it was in this particular case, whether it was the A or the B-side. But Maggie May, with the A-side of this one, I think, being Reason to Believe, Rod Stewart. And I'm saying I think this is the A-side simply because I'm familiar with the story of him needing a filler song at the last minute, and they wrote that thing in like 5 minutes and banged it out, and even Rod didn't think much of it, and then it became this huge hit for him. So there you go. You just never know for sure. I've heard the same story about Black Sabbath's Paranoid. It was the same kind of thing. They needed one more song to fill the album, banged out Paranoid real quick, and then it became such a big hit that, you know, there you go. It even titled the album after it. So sometimes the spontaneity is you just off the cuff. You come up with some of the best stuff sometimes. Now here's one that I'm not familiar with. Now we're starting to get into some, you know, touch and goes here. The Smoke Ring doing How Do You Get to Be So Wonderful. Now that's one that by title I'd have to dedicate to my wife if I was doing a radio dedication, because that song would definitely fit. And the B-side being Not So Much. But the Smoke Ring, yeah, not a band I'm familiar with. But how'd you get to be so wonderful, baby? Alright, now we've got a really cool label. I mean, look at that. Poison Ring Records. Got a serpent, looks like a cobra on a ring. That's pretty neat. That's pretty nifty. It is marked as the A-side, so I do know this is the A. But the Incredible Broadside Brass Bed Band, which I've never heard of, and Little Dead Surfer Girl. Sounds like a rather depressing song, doesn't it? But it's not something I'm familiar with. Bullfrog Blues does sound somewhat familiar, but there again, I don't know the band, and it could simply be a familiar sounding title. Somebody did Bullfrog Blues, it's just not coming to my mind right here at the moment. Then here we've got Kix doing Lola, L-O-A, Lola. Yeah, I like some of the Kix stuff. The Kinks stuff. And Lola's a very well-known, very popular song. B-side of that being Mindless Child of Motherhood, which I don't know, I'm not familiar with. And then here's one that's interesting. Frigid Pink doing a remake of House of the Rising Sun, which I believe was originally Eric Burdon and the Animals. But this did get some airplay. I looked this one up actually when I bought this spindle because I was like, House of the Rising Sun, I know that song, but I don't know Frigid Pink. Yeah, this was a remake, and it did quite well in the charts, so you might recognize this version if you were to hear it. B-side being Driving Blues. But I'm still much more familiar with the original House of the Rising Sun. Next up, we've got Cat Stevens doing Moon Shadow, which, that's an alright song. Poppy. Cat Stevens, again, isn't one of my favorite artists, but he did have a few good pop songs in the 70s. B-side of that being I Think I See the Light, which I am not at all familiar with. So, next up, we've got Paul Anka doing You're Having My Baby, which kind of seems to ring some bells, but I'm not real familiar with it. And the B-side being Papa. So I'm pretty sure that You're Having My Baby is a song that I might recognize if I took the time to put it on and listen to it. Then next up here we've got Chicago with Lowdown. And the B-side of that was Loneliness Is Just a Word. And wrapping this episode up here, we've got Chicago doing Color My World, which I do recognize that title. I do think I know that song. With a B-side of Make Me Smile. So, make me smile by coming back for part 3 and wrapping up this spindle with us. Have a great day.